consistency, but it's going to be explosive no matter what happens. And Vici kicked things off on the blue side with a ban aimed straight at Rookie's face.
And look, all I'll say about Invictus Gaming before we start this series is never bet on or against Invictus Gaming, because they have upset bigger teams than Vici in playoff series in the LPL and lost to lower teams. It's just one of those things where on the day, this team can be so far ahead, so cohesive, and then just fall apart on another day.
Well, LeBlanc is there, the first 2 bans for Vici. Rek'Sai Nidalee actually for IG, so throwing bans at Dandy. Dandy chucks one back with the Gragas ban there, aimed at Kakao and IG. Only 1 ban left now.
The Gragas ban on blue side is very interesting. Dandy has played it in the LPL already, but clearly they're not prizing it as a first pick. Red side has definitely been the side to be on from what we can tell. It's been about picking up those 2 priority champions. There isn't normally that first champion to snap up. Sejuani makes it through the picks and bans though. That's instantly locked.
Yeah, Maokai ban from IG is the last one. Leaves Sejuani over for Vici, but Zatai already locked in the Na for himself, so going to be playing it again. And Kakao, always curious to see what he's playing. Kind of banned himself away there, honestly, with the Rek'Sai Nidalee bans. But both Dandy and Kakao, very deep pockets as far as the champion pool goes. And IG, considering their next pick, take Sivir.
So Zatai's playing the Na. That's actually his most played champion so far in the LPL at 3-3. Has a good KDA on it. It's been a consistent champion for them. Locking in the Sivir. Sivir was a first pick yesterday in the EDG series consistently. So, I mean, the priority for that champion, you can already tell, it's going to help with the engage options coming through for Na. But it does leave the Nunu open, and Nunu's been a first-round pick.
He's been fantastic. Even Kakao hovered it there on their side as well. We do have China open, but I think the days of people throwing bans at Mata have kind of come to an end, at least for now, just because he plays so much and there are too many threats here on Vici. Both these teams presenting plenty of threats. You can see the jungle the target for IG and the mid lane the target for Vici, and they take time with their last few picks, but it's Janna Lucian as Vici complete their bottom lane.
Very late priority comes through on Lucian. Lucian and Graves have definitely been the calling card of Vici. Those are the champions he's looked strongest on. A lot of Graves game, I believe 9-2 on that champion. Lucian right behind it at 4-1. Similar playstyle to Forgiven from SK Gaming, known for playing those lane-dominating champions. It's when he's pushing his lane, when he's winning in a 2v2, and Hatong can play the Destiny, or the jungle pressure comes through from Dandy, that's when they can start moving up Mata, now on the speedy Janna, to push up those wards, get aggressive vision out, and stranglehold IG out of resources.
And IG, 3rd and 4th pick there, Nunu and Nautilus there too, so good engage there, probably support Nautilus coming in, and Kakao will take away the Nunu into Sejuani.
I mean, Nunu versus Sejuani, definitely different styles of jungle. We're expecting a much earlier Sightstone coming out from Kakao in the jungle on that Nunu, trying to make Dandy predictable, especially around level 6. You know, when the Glacial Prison's available, you need to give your lanes advanced notice. Dandy's picked up this Sejuani once already, and we saw just how strong it can be. We thought, okay, he's away from the Rek'Sai and Nidalee. He's on something a bit lower pressure. Maybe that will mean he'll stay in the jungle. We won't impact lanes as much. But level 4, level 3 ganks have been commonplace for this Sejuani. And the Rumble gets through. The priority wasn't there for multiple weeks, but he brings it back.
Yeah, Carry going to take, I believe, an undefeated Rumble from the split. 9-1. So just one loss there, but a very strong performance over the regular split. Takes it back into the top lane. And Hatong has kind of been relegated to utility duty for a while, but the counter pick comes through swiftly. Rookie will be on Cassiopeia for game 1.
Cassiopeia definitely going to be a high octane lane. You have to feel like Hatong can probably hang back and wave clear confidently against the Cassiopeia, but it's a very high damage lineup coming from the mid lane. Honestly, they had the Na, they had the Nunu, they had the Norse. Not a lot of damage from those 3 picks. They're going for comp. They're trying to pick this Cassiopeia for a bit of damage from the mid. Of course, going to have the speed up from the On the Hunt to potentially get into the back line. But it's always a risky pick. You know, Cassiopeia, she either goes really well or really poorly. And if your positioning's on point, and honestly, Rookie's positioning on Azir has been a highlight of the recent weeks, she can do crazy things.
Yeah, champion that really does suit Rookie. Can maybe dominate the lane as well, which he loves to do. But we move into our matchups now. Rumble versus Na in the top side, and Sedge versus Nunu in the jungle.
Yeah, Rumble into Na is not an ideal matchup. You expect Na to definitely win the early laning phase, of course. There could be lane swaps coming through. No teleport smite is a notable thing here, patient times. In the mid lane, Lulu's going to try and wave clear, and Cassiopeia is just building up to the late game.
And Vasily back on Lucian, of course, versus Kid Sivir. Be curious to see if they get themselves into a 2v2, and if so, what happens. And rounding out the supports there as well. Mata back on Janna, and Kitty's nice and aggressive on the Nautilus.
Yeah, Mata on Janna is a lot of comfort. We already mentioned this is a priority pick for both these supports. Mata on Janna, never something you want to opt into, but getting it in the 3rd round of picks suggests to me that IG's happy to give it away.
I mean, I think teams in general, again, they just stopped banning it because they would run out of bans.
Absolutely, and that's kind of the reality, is that as these seasons progress, we might not have must-ban champion. I thought maybe we'd move towards just banning away particular picks like Froggen and Anivia, for example. Mata and Janna, same sort of story, but available here.
Yeah, we'll see what they can get done. We're about to get into game one between Vici and IG. And welcome onto the Rift here for our first game between Vici Gaming and Invictus Gaming. The LPL Spring playoff quarterfinals and a best of 5 between two of the best looking teams in our split.
And you can see on this minimap, Nautilus and Siva already very hastily made their way to the top. So they're looking for the lane swap here, our Invictus Gaming. It doesn't look like it's going to be spotted out. And the lane swap, if you just rush to lane, you don't even look for the aggressive vision, you can be pretty confident that at best, at worst, it's going to be a 2v2 top.
And I think that's fine. Again, I'm not sure if the teams necessarily want to swap one way or the other, although we actually do have Vici backing off already, and 3 people have snuck into the top here for IG, so it might be something a little bit gimmicky in the top lane.
There hasn't been any people stepping over wards at this position, so at this present point, it's just an educated guess coming through from Vici with no information at all. They guess into the lane swap, but as you mentioned, 4 members in the brush, moving forward now aggressively. Still not spotted out by a ward.
Yeah, late invade is what they're looking for here. Vici's ward, though, will know they're going to wait here potentially. That ward is there, but they will finally spot them off with about 5 seconds left on the ward. Mata will just brush past them, but IG are going to get a blue buff.
So this is a tie with the jungle follow in this situation. So it means that IG, they have multiple members. All of their team at this present point, there's a tie, will quickly teleport bot in the top lane. So it should be vertical jungling with IG controlling the top side of the map, but that, of course, cedes Dragon advantage, especially in the early levels, to Vici.
Yeah, interesting there. Maybe Kakao can steal it away with the Nunu. Seen a lot of level 4 dragons recently from junglers, but we'll swap into the 2v2 in the top side this time around. So for all intents and purposes, standard lanes.
So you're just inverted. So you have to give Nunu the advantage when it comes to jungle pressure in the early levels. He also has the lanes that are going to be aggressive. You look at the likes of Na, who should be able to push in the Rumble very confidently. Rumble's one weakness, especially in early levels, is the fact this can't counter push with the Q max coming through. Although Dandy, as we mentioned, is on the blue. We're expecting early pressure from Dandy. He certainly hasn't been a farm till level 6 jungler on the Sejuani.
No, just in general, Dandy loves to get in early and affect something, whether it's the lanes, whether it's the enemy jungle. He always wants to be applying pressure, and as always, still the master of the counter gank.
Still the master of the counter gank, absolutely. As we see farming going through quite quietly. I mean, surprisingly low octane start, but it is Sejuani and Nunu. We're not expecting super amounts of skirmishing in the early levels.
No, and a pretty neutral mid lane there as well. Cassio, probably a slight advantage, but nothing major. Although did take the double mobility summoners there, did Rookie, so apparently not satisfied with the Sivir ultimate to get him in there, wanted the Ghost as well.
In general, Cassiopeia players, when Cool played it, for example, it was Flash Cleanse, just because it's all about consistent damage in a fight if you're Cassiopeia. Quite confident to take double escape summoners over the cleanse when you're against a Sejuani. You feel like the Sejuani is the sole CC, so cleanse would completely negate that glacial prison coming through, but not respecting it, just looking to try and either ghost or flash away from it and then pump out the damage.
Yeah, confident in positioning his Rookie and starting to lane nicely. Actually pushed Lulu out, interestingly enough, in the early stages. About a 10 CS lead already, but Hetong going back for a second Doran's ring.
Just wants a bit more mana regen for wave control in this situation. Of course, the extra health will help him in trades coming through from Cassiopeia. Cassiopeia, in general, happy to just hang back. Again, if it's a farm lane, especially damage-wise, it definitely advantages Cassio in the late game.
Yeah, Rookie happy right now, just going to farm away, but we've seen Lulu be surprisingly contested, I have to say, over the last few weeks of late. Been a pretty popular first pick, and again, all you really need is those 2 items, and you're good to go.
I mean, the thing about taking Lulu away in the first, because you don't show your hand about your comp at all. Can go mid lane, can go top lane, can even confidently go in the support role. That's probably the least popular of all the options. Again, you're negating the potential of the enemy team, just locking in a Juggermore if your first 3 picks show your hand. You give yourself the opportunity to go. You can just change your comp on the fly with your second set of picks. So such a safe first pick because you're not giving away any information.
Yeah, and again, we've sort of seen a trend from Vici in particular where they've, kept Hetong on more utility champions. Twisted Fate, Orianna, even Cho'Gath. These are much more utility-based mid laners where we look over on the other side there as well. In the bottom side now, actually, although effectively the top lane for Vici and carry there, he's not a big damage champion this time, a carry champion.
And the only synergy in terms of team fight you have to think is Dandy initiating with the Glacial Prison and then the Equalizer being layered on top of. Of course, the Wild Growth might help with a bit more CC, but it's definitely not the box and other multiple kinds of AoE CC. But he's already shown a lot of priority on this champion in previous weeks. He hasn't shown it in the LPL for a good month or so, I believe. So it's just interesting to see him back on this champion when it counts in the playoffs.
Yeah, what a better time to bring it out than right now here as Kid and Kitties continuing to clear out minions in the top side of the map, but very comfortably CSing right now. Kid slightly behind due to all the pushing by Vasily and Marta, but Siva probably expected to be somewhat behind in the early stages against the Lucian.
So of course Lucian is going to have the better trades in early levels. You feel like it takes a couple of levels in the Boomerang Blade before you can start getting aggressive trades in as Siva. In the early levels, the passive does so much damage from Vasily, of course. We'll continue to do as the game goes on. Dredge Giant goes in, but this is just a 2v2. No junglers on the way.
Yeah, just some Boomerang Blade trades back and forth there as well, so nothing major there, as we do see some trading in the top side of the map. Looking down to the items now as well, Rookie picked up a tier nice and early, so going to stack that up. Wonder where he wants to go with the next build, and Kakao comes in the top lane for a bit of pressure, but finds a Trinket Ward instead.
So of course clears out the Trinket Ward now, so no wards available whatsoever for Vici. They now have to hang back so defensively, have to respect even a Nunu jungle who of course has decent ganks in the early game, but doesn't normally have kill pressure. But we have to mention it is a Nautilus support, so plenty of CC coming from the lane.
Yeah, we see one ward actually coming through that Kakao did put down in his time in the top side of the map as well. Going to clear the Scuttle Crab right now. You have to think, but we've seen this a bit more. No more side stones after machetes here. Everyone's finishing the Trailblazer right now.
Just going for a bit of clear, I have to guess. I mean, the priority on finishing the Cinderhulk might be the big factor there. Cinderhulk's such a strong item. We're still on patch 5.6. No nerfs come its way just yet. So finishing that item gives you so many turret dive opportunities, let alone tanking up the dragon and just scaling up into the late game. It's a bit of a death cap for health, you have to think, which is obviously one of the most wanted things you're going to have as a tank. That's why we see multiple smites on teams in many metas. Notable that in this game, though, we don't see that.
No, I mean, we've seen a lot of teleport smite. Thought that we might just see nothing but that during promo and playoffs here, but certainly teams still willing to play, I guess, more tanky, more utility-style top laners, or even more carry-style top laners. And, you know, without Hecarim, Shyvana, or champions that really suit that style, if you still want to play something like Rumble, Gnar especially as well, you just need to take your standard summoners.
You feel at this point, if you're going to go Hecarim or Shyvana, you will be opting into the teleport smite, but everyone else is different. There's the flash.
Good flash ulti there from Zatai, but can't combo the wallop, and carry flashes immediately after getting stunned into the wall. Kakao is there for pressure, but still no first blood yet at about 8 minutes in.
Yeah, Zatai was really showing you a glimpse as why you need flash, just to reposition for that big Gnar ultimate. Whenever you have a setup CC or just a potential AoE CC, unless it's massive range like the Onslaught of Shadows, when it's melee range especially, like the Gnar, flash definitely a requirement.
Yeah, and interestingly, with all the people on the top side of the map, Kakao and Zatai, after the pressure on carry, will look to take away the first dragon. It's not super early here. Kakao, level 5, could have attempted to take it earlier if he wanted to, but we'll take it at a nice clip there. Nice and early there for a first dragon, about 8 minutes in.
And now is one of the best top laners at opting into an early dragon. Of course, Hyper gives him percentage maximum health damage. So it helps up the Nunu Gnar, very fast deal, of course. Even Blood Boil, especially in mini Gnar form, is very useful for the Gnar. So a very good clip for dragon. It's not 4 minutes, but 8 minutes still on the early side.
Yeah, good stuff. I mean, it's, again, with everyone swapping top lane, eventually someone was going to give swap back and maybe look for the dragon. So IG, stop that potential for now. Get to leave the duel in the top lane for a little while longer if that's what they want. We see the Cinder now through for Kakao, but Dandy taking over the top side of the jungle, going to take the Raptors away from Kakao's jungle.
Just surprising. It's been such a quiet early game. 9 minutes in, no turrets, 1 dragon coming down, no kills at all. This is the LPL page time. Usually we see 4 or 5 kills. A kill a minute has been on average in a lot of games, but just been a very quiet strategic game. Perhaps we shouldn't be surprised, because Vici in particular have definitely been looking over the waters to the Korean style of play. They've been more about opting into vision control and just smart rotations rather than just the deathmatch style that LPL can sometimes get to.
Yeah, and IG have really been finding their identity, I think. Certainly have a new-ish lineup, still one of the rosters that has been around probably for the least amount of time, at least in this LPL season, was the Tide rejoining the lineup as the top laner this time around. I mean, IG do have a lot of scaling to look for as well, so happy to play a more passive game, but IG in particular are playing quite subdued here, just happy to let the game farm up and take Vici to a mid-game.
And of course, one of the IGs we saw this season, that's how I kind of coined the fact that IG have changed their style too much. Of course, we remember the multiple, I believe it was triple tier, catalyst stacking Ezreal's meta game where they would not get any kills, like 4 kills in 40 minutes, just powering up till everyone had their Ceres and their 10-stack Rod of Ages. That's one of the IGs we saw this season. So they've already shown they can play that way. Vici are most comfortable when they're just playing around smart vision. You can look at this minimap. It's already lit up by Vici Gaming. They have excellent vision, especially around the blue side area of Invictus Gaming. They haven't got any turrets yet. They haven't started to push in, but that's been their trademark. It's been about taking early turrets, pushing up vision control, Dandy and Mata roaming in to get vision. Again, we're saying all these things. Sounds like Samsung White, but that's what Vici have been doing their best to copy.
Yeah, it's Samsung White with a bit of an aggressive Chinese flair, I guess is how we've seen this team. And bottom tower does go down as a result. Good early rotation by Vici's bottom lane, able to take that turret away. And I love that you mentioned the wards, because you look over at Danny's inventory, no sightstone. He's stopped doing that after about week 5.
The sightstones have definitely fallen off. Still picks it up sometimes. That Sejuani, especially with Cinderhulk and the fact that you're getting even better effective health from the Sightstone, you might opt into it after the Cinderhulk item. But yeah, they're doing excellent warding even without picking up the Sightstone at this point, as we do have a brief pause. Obviously some technical issues coming through.
Just looking through the items as they stand right now. Rumble looking good for carry. Got a Seeker's Arm, got his Sork Shoes up as well, so going to be looking quite strong for that next Dragon fight when it does pop back up in about 3 or 4 minutes time. Cinderhulk almost completed for both. Junglers actually sitting with a Trailblazer plus a Balmy Cinder each, with a slight advantage for Dandy with an extra pair of boots in there as well. Other than that, BF Swords in the bottom side, a pickaxe up for Kid now as well, who I guess shopped a bit more recently than Vasily has, but that lost in the turret, to be fair.
It is a bit crazy to see a Rumble-Nah matchup where Rumble's winning in CS. That's a notable thing. We already mentioned carry 9-1 Rumble, very good at this Rumble. But I mean, up in CS, in a 1v1 lane, and just with 86 CS at 10 minutes, that's a surprise in itself. We've seen so many Rumbles struggling to get their Magic Pen core, the Haunting guys, into the Sorcerer's Shoes very early in the game, but because he's just been unharassed, Sorcerer's Shoes are now building towards the Zhonya's as his first item with the Seeker's Arm Guard. Zatai definitely building for lane at this point with a Hex Drinker and another Null Magic Mantle. It's always dangerous, and it's kind of deceptive because we so frequently see Rumbles at 2 items very late in the game. A snowboard Rumble can still do disgusting things, and if you get an early Zhonya's in particular, you can actually overheat, dive the backline, and use that stasis while the Flame Spitter is still running. The backline damage of a snowboard Rumble is notable.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about Rumble is just that he always has interesting peaks and troughs in his power. We talk about how he's good with little items. They're just the 2 items, the Sork Shoes and the Haunting Guys, usually enough for the early stages of the game. The thing is, though, Rumble definitely gets to a point where that's no longer enough. You kind of have to judge your part times correctly. Rumble is all about very heavy, consistent peaks and troughs, and you've really got to take advantage of your peaks and make sure you farm up during your troughs.
But I mean, when the standard is a trough at the start of the game because you've been thrown into a 1v2, or this, you're usually evaluating Rumble's power at maybe, say, a Liandry's into Sorcerer's Shoes at 30 minutes into the game. You have to reevaluate it, the fact that Rumble scales really well with AP, both offensively and defensive. Of course, has his Shield W that also scales with ability power, can do a lot of damage to the backline if he's ever able to get into range for the Flame Spitter. But you don't see Flame Spitter Rumbles in the backline with Zhonya's unless the snowballs happen. So again, it's just a different situation. With Sejuani, with the setup CC, if that allows Rumble to both layer the Equalizer and get into the backline, could be surprising things from the Rumble.
It could. I mean, that's the other thing as well. Rumble's required to do damage in this team comp because Zitong, on a utility champion, he has the Lulu. Lulu does respectable damage. We've certainly seen Lulu's contribute heavily to fights just based on her damage and AoE alone, but Carry is expected to do a lot of the heavy lifting as far as extra AoE magic damage goes, and for that, he'll need his Zhonya's.
When you're looking at these team comps, actually quite enigmatic team comps from both teams just looking down. IG, they've got Sivir Cassiopeia for damage, but they have the Nah, Nunu, and Nautilus. Nah, Nunu, and Nautilus all about the dive. Sivir can dive in, but 500 range might deal with all the magic damage coming through from Carry in particular on the Rumble. And Cassiopeia, I always prefer her fighting the backlines with a Hyper Carry where you have to respect the Petrifying Gaze. If you ever have to use that Petrifying Gaze for engage or supplemental engage in this situation, it's just so infrequent that you'll see a situation where, say, 5-man Petrifying Gaze into 5-man Nah. It's not really a setup CC, it's more of a situational CC. So if they're going for a dive comp, I don't necessarily see the Petrifying Gaze being super important to their team fight, but I remain to be convinced.
We'll have to see, but Zatai for me really is the person that does need to get in and use the ultimate. There's going to be a lot of it, how he can get into the fights, what position he can get into, because IG have great zones of control between Cassiopeia and Nunu to get their short-range carries into good positions, and Kiddies will peel, at least for Sivir especially, quite well. But that's a hard thing to set up. You have to all be stacked together, find the right team fight, and get Zatai to actually get in place for that big ultimate.
And Zatai's the only person who can truly engage. If Kitties ever tries to use the depth charge to engage, Mata just stands in front and just uses the Monsoon to push the rest of the enemy team away. So on the hunt into the picture-perfect Na ultimate is the only true engage. Of course, Kakao, no engage from that Nunu. They have some decent pick power if they can get ward coverage advantage, but getting a ward advantage against Vici Gaming of all teams, the masters of ward coverage in the LPL, especially in the past month or 6 weeks, is a very difficult thing to do. So I feel like IG will struggle if they ever fall behind in this game, or if they really want to try and look for an aggressive pick, because they just haven't picked a comp that has many tools to do so.
Just a reminder, we are still in a pause, of course, as well, so just waiting for that to be resolved. As a quick check here, 1-0 up in turrets for Vici, and about 1,000 gold ahead as well. So elite here, but nothing massive, and IG, of course, have claimed the first dragon. So fairly even right now, but with the first rotation coming to the bottom for Vici by Vici and Mata to take away the bottom outer turret, Vici might be looking to start putting the foot on the pedal and really get the game rolling.
I mean, their rotational play was the hallmark of their 6-0 run a couple of weeks ago. They kind of fell off in the last few weeks, but then again, LGD, OMG, many teams were struggling towards playoffs, trying to hold back strategies. We expect them to start rotating around with Vici. It'd be interesting to see if he actually goes the Bloodthirst solution that we've seen a few times, which of course makes it that much safer to overextend for turret damage, but you don't have the critical strike. And Lucian, with that passive, the Light Singer, gets so many auto attacks in that the 20% critical strike, okay, it's not the 25% of Infinity Edge previously, but it's a very relevant statistic.
It's just one of those things where I guess the nature of crit is such that if you throw out more auto attacks, you'll just theoretically get more crits.
And he's always putting out so many auto attacks because the passives register it as autos. Even if they're critically, even if the critical doesn't mean that they're doing full 2.5 modifier, 2.5 of half damage is still going to be over a regular auto attack, instantaneously being shot out. So I don't mind the Bloodthirst if you have multiple sources of damage, but as only Rumble and Lucian as true damage sources, Sejuani and Lulu as kind of more incidental utility-based damage sources, probably want to go the IE.
Yeah, might even see a Phantom Dancer following second as well. We don't see it that often. Static Shift tends to be the preference for Lucian in particular, but just again for more carry potential, because that is Vici's one potential issue moving into the mid and late game stages, that they just might not have enough damage. But we've seen so many 2-threat comps this season that both teams actually running them should be just fine.
We've definitely seen less damage as early as recently as yesterday, where in game 1, EDG were just running Urgot and Hecarim for damage sources. It was Lulu in the mid lane, it was utility jungler, utility support. In this case, Lucian Rumble do excellent late game damage. Lucian in particular has kind of challenged our assumptions and shown that with 3-4 items, he is a valid tank buster and also has that strong early game. So maybe more of a meta pick than Corki, which has kind of fallen away with the tank meta and the health stacking coming through, negating his early damage. When there were lots of carries in Assassin, the fact that Corki could go Sorcerer's Shoes and use those rockets for early magic damage, the low health pools made him hard to itemize against. But if you're just itemizing health, you know, stacking 3,000, 4,000, as we saw Clear Love yesterday, Cinderhulk into Giant Spot about 15 minutes in the game onto Rek'Sai, it doesn't do so well. So we've seen Corki fall away, and Lucian as a valid tank buster, but also that strong early game pushing with the turrets. Very popular.
Yeah, it's funny as well because Lucian sort of originally developed before Cinderhawk as a counter to both Graves and Corki, interestingly enough, who are seeing a ton of play due to their early strength. Those champions still definitely run around. Vici especially does love himself a couple games on Graves, but Lucian's been his go-to ever since he sort of rose back into prominence in the metagame, and he's just never looked back.
I think Lucian also gives this comp something different. If we just had, say, Graves, Sejuani, Rumble, we're looking for one big AoE burst, and then not much damage. I mean, Graves fine for damage, but usually has to use that quick draw defensively, can't use that attack speed steroid offensively. Lucian, he can throw out the culling from similar range, not instantaneous damage, but usually does register, but then has much more dueling compared to Graves in the late game especially. Even though they're both short range carries, usually take Lucian in every situation.
Yeah, Graves just really reminds me of offensive Sivir, I guess. They both need to get into short range. They both love continually using their mobility, in Sivir's case, their ultimate and passive, in Graves his quick draw, to continually do damage. We talk about Graves being almost a melee range champion in a lot of ways, and Sivir is often at her best when she's doing the same thing.
When your tank line's super strong, when the peel is there, getting in the front, you can do a lot of late game damage with auto attacks as Sivir. You're the only AD carry with a true auto attack reset in the Ricochet, double Infinity Edge crit is a lot of damage to anyone, but it's just those situations where you're isolated, when you just have your support peeling and then a Shyvana rushes at you, or a Dr. Mundo rushes at you. When your positioning is at a premium, you have to give up damage because you can't deal with threats on top of you outside of the one spell shield. But aggressively, absolutely. If you have divers, if you have other multiple damage sources, Sivir can be very relevant in late game damage.
I think for me as well, looking through the comps here, I do like what both teams have put together. Can certainly see the win conditions in both of them. Lulu for me is definitely the curious pick here because we originally saw Lulu in the jungle world. That was the thing that she really became known for in recent memory at least. You know, she's still very flexible. She's a great strong pick. Often lanes quite effectively in almost any situation, but I don't really know what it does in this particular comp for Vici.
So Vici had to blind pick their mid lane, you have to remember. So you had to go for something safe. We haven't seen Hetong go to too much of the Orianas of the world or other wave clear champions. Lulu, you can say, is very flexible, as you mentioned. You can just put her in the mid lane. It was a first pick in this situation, so they just threw it into mid because she can just happily wave clear. And given their strategy, given the fact that this map is already aggressively warded for Vici Gaming, the fact that she can often push any champion in, whether it's Cassiopeia or most of the mid lane champion pool, it does open up time for you to have the wave at the enemy turret, open up space for your jungler to get in aggressive wards. So lane controls what Vici are looking for from the mid lane, whether it's Twisted Fate, the ability to fast push then rotate, or just Lulu to fast push, exit lane, and open up time for the enemy, for your jungler to get in wards. That's basically Hetong's job, is to cause enough pressure to allow Mata and Dandy to aggressively ward the enemy jungle.
And that's been Hetong's job recently for sure. We've mentioned the heavy utility, the Twisted Fate, which we're very likely to see, honestly, in this series. I've blind picked that as well in certain situations, so I wonder if Vici will fancy that at some point here in this series. But we do unfortunately still have a pause going on, and the players starting to get a little bit impatient. Rookie putting his hand on his head there, just being like, yep, ready to play more League of Legends.
Yeah, Rookie's just feeling the pinch a little bit. It's been a long couple of days, especially I know for you as well, into your 16th game of casting or whatever.
Something like that.
Whatever it feels like. Sometimes it all blends into a 14th, I believe. Of course, 2 best of 5s going the distance and the quick 3-0 for Master 3 yesterday. I mean, this game's still very close. Of course, 1,000 gold lead and the aggressive ward advantage for Vici Gaming as of this point. And Invictus Gaming just looking to scale up. The big question mark always to me is, what is Rookie going to be able to do on Cassiopeia? She's always gone through peaks and troughs of popularity. Fell away for a long time just because she's not a reliable champion. In a lot of hands, she can get some work done in lane. Of course, has always been a huge lane bully, but it's all about late game team fights where she keeps the poison up and suddenly Twin Fang goes on multiple times. Rylai's is picked up. Enemies are slowed and she gets a massive triple quadra kill, or she lets that passive, the poison fall off and just doesn't contribute much to a fight. You know, the petrifying gaze misses or is flashed away from. Cassiopeia played well, is one of the highest damaging champions in the league. Fiercely single target, but man, single target damage aplenty.
Yeah, I mean, it has, I guess, very narrow AoE, which is the issue. We actually have a tier there for Rookie, so building in towards an Archangel's eventually, but we've seen, I believe, Abyssal Scepter was one of the choices today. We saw Bamey in the promotion tournament play that in the mid lane for ADG as well. So with the Ruby Crystal in Rookie's inventory, not entirely sure what he wants to go for. Maybe a Haunting guy is coming through.
I'm going to guess either Catalyst or Rylai's are going to be the purchase, of course. Ruby Crystal, such a flexible item pickup. We see multiple junglers just picking out double Ruby Crystal because Sight, Stone, Giant Spell, everything builds out of Ruby Crystal at this point. If I was a betting man, it's going to be Rylai's. That's been kind of the common build, is tier into Rylai's. But tier Catalyst, if you're looking for a real late game and just can pick up the Rod of Ages unhindered, it's a decent start as well.
And as we do pop back into the game, finally back on the Rift here for Game 1 versus Vici and IG. Been a close one so far, like we already noted. But Vasily getting that first turret, it's going to start to open up the map for Vici.
So wait to see if we do see rotations coming through from Vasily. We can see the back coming through now. With the aggressive wards, they can definitely start cheating towards whichever side the jungle seems to be less attended and start pushing things out.
And unfortunately, another pause here. Seems like continued issues here in the game for whatever reason, but, you know, a little bit of play more kid, going to get a couple extra CS here. And again, that somewhat greedy shot, losing him a turret, but going up the pickaxe. Sivir, a champion that has certainly seen a resurgence recently, is, I believe that's Carry? Can't quite tell. Covering his face. Yeah, it is Carry. Feeling, again, the same thing. It's a long day for these players. Best of 5s are grueling series for any teams to have to play in here. And unfortunately, you know, they're going to have to settle themselves and make sure they stay focused because they're in the middle of their first game, unfortunately for them.
Exactly. There's plenty coming after this one. It's only the first game. We feel like we'll find something about this series from this game, whether the rotational power of Vici will be enough to overpower IG, or whether Rookie, who's really been the man to carry IG in recent weeks, can really step on this Cassiopeia. If he can force Cassiopeia to be banned in future games, a situational champion that has that high payoff or the real high risk when it comes to the pick, that'd be a massive strategic advantage for IG.
You can certainly tell that both teams have done their homework. We're very confident in their picks. That Cassiopeia pick for Rookie was made almost instantly after they saw the Lulu and rounded out their comp with the Sivir being picked early. So clearly knew what they wanted to take away here. Rookie's been a strong player throughout the entire split. His champion pool in general is always fun to watch because he does play just about anything along with Pawn for EDG as far as champion diversity goes. But we do pop back into the Rift, hopefully with no more pauses ready to go. And Carry and Zatai still 1v1ing each other in the top lane.
Zatai definitely has an item build to completely deal with Rumble. He's not building any health, so not really incentivizing the Leandri's rush. Just stacking magic resist and also having that Hex Drinker shield for a bit of offensive items. But in general, it's going to be super hard for Rumble to push out a lane.
Yeah, Hatong returns to the mid lane as well. Got his Athene's, not Athene's, the Chalice and the Fiendish Codex building in towards the Athenes. Mato actually in the top, going to maybe force the tie-in, but Vasili's here as well, and Cacau's also rotated in, but Nunu might be the one caught. A good flash from Cacao keeps him safe, and Zatai played that very safe, but rightly so.
We're waiting to see which lane Vasili would enter. Vasili might have moved towards top. They had a lot of defensive vision around there, do now, but it's very shallow vision at this present point. No aggressive vision towards the enemy red buff, for example, so they still have to respect the jungle pressure, but with Cacao no flash on a Nunu, perhaps they can overextend a little bit.
Yeah, and Vici again rotating in, trying to take out turrets with the Lucian. Vasili's gone back. He's got his pickaxe now as well, but Kiddies and Kid have rotated back in to push him off. Zatai almost transformed into Mega now. Form tried to line up an ulti, but will just transform, and Rico is going to go back down to the bottom lane.
But you can already note, Patient Time, that Kid is playing very reactionarily this game. He waited to see which lane Lucian showed up in and then went to answer it. But the issue there is that if the wards still continue to be confirmed, we can now see good offensive vision in the top. We saw multiple wards towards the Wolf camp in the bottom. Vici will just keep rotating. They have Lucian for excellent turret damage, and if they know that there's only 1 or 2 members in the area, the fact that Lucian has great turret damage but not necessarily great sieging, as he's a 500 range AD carry, it doesn't matter if your rotations are on point.
And these teams are going to have to be careful with this swap back to the top side as well, as we sort of reset to our original lanes here in the game, because Dragon is back up in less than a minute now, and if Vici leave the lanes as they are, that should be IG's once again.
IG definitely in position to take it over. There is some pink wards in the area, but no, very neutral vision when it comes to exactly on top of the Baron. Cacao, I think, might be spotted out here. The Cinderhulk aura maybe just being spotted out by the ward. And you can see Vasili and Mata, they head back very quickly.
Yep, I think everybody knows that Dragon's back up soon. 30 seconds is about the minimum amount of time you can leave to try and get to the Dragon. So Kid will just be able to get there in time. It seems like, what item can he get to? No, just a Brawler's Glove there for a bit of extra kit. But again, everyone buying up whatever they can with their gold because they know a big fight's just about to start.
Yeah, very similar item timings coming through between Kid and Vasili. Of course, Kid going to be praying to the RNG gods a little bit more with the Brawler's Glove, giving less critical strike than the Crit Cloak coming through from Vasili, but still very early times. You were actually on the ball. It was a Haunting Guys coming through from Rookie. That early power spike, that's something you might not necessarily expect, but now we're talking about 3 Twin Fangs, 4 Twin Fangs every time the poison is connecting, doing massive chunk damage.
Yeah, it's a very mid-game focused item here for Rookie, and I guess it fits in a little bit more with IG's team comp in general. They've got the Sivir, who's pretty strong in the mid-game, but does do respectable late-game damage, especially if set up well. But right now are just fighting for vision here around the Dragon. Blue buffs on both the mid laners. They'll quickly wave clear away. Level 11 crucially on Hatong, but not on Rookie, and that might be just enough of the difference here.
It might be, but just the fact that he's opting into Haunting Guys tells me that IG want to double down the mid game, double down on their objective control. They, of course, have the exact timer for Dragon. It's respawn now, but the only reason to opt into Haunting Guys this early is definitely to win these early fights.
Hits 11 now as well, so Rookie will have the rank 2 ulti ready to go. Zatai moving in for his. In fact, both the top laners pretty desperately searching for about half a bar more of experience just to hit level 11 so they can be super effective once they get down to that Dragon fight. Teleports up for both of them, and interestingly, that standoff, which lasted about 45 seconds, means Cacao's actually going back home to shop again.
I mean, but Carry picking up level 11, we're talking about Rumble. consistently been a champion that you have to respect around dragon fights. People always said never opt into a dragon fight against a rumble. So if he can pick up level 11, it really opens him up to the contest. Already has some good item timings. Crucially, not double magic penetration just yet. Of course, he got the Seeker's Arm Guard for a bit more laning power against the Thai. But level 11 being achieved before a fight, you can already see some layering between the Glacial Prison and the level 2 Equalizer. That should be enough to win a fight for Vici, even taking into account the Haunting guys on Cassia.
There's the Thai, again, going to get aggressive. They're hopping towards carry. Is Meganar now as well, so Vici going to give up the Dragon once again. They've got good vision around it. They actually have secured 2 pink quads in the area around it, so continuing to get superior vision control over against IG, and around important objectives, that's all the difference they usually need.
So crucially, level 11 is hit. Couple skill shots go wide. Nobody's wanting to start the Dragon because the power spikes, to be honest, with the items that are finished, are very similar.
It's just too tense here. There's no first blood in this game even, Papa Smithy, so teams being very careful, don't want to give away the first crucial fight, and this always happens in these very mid-game focused teams. When the first fight happens at 15 minutes, it's bloody, and Vici back off the Dragon. Teleports coming through for both sides. The Thai's down here, going to rebuild back the Rage. Vici now back on top of the Dragon. Kakao going to come in, but Sejuani will get it. That'll even up the score. The ulti goes out, but it just tags the Thai for the slow. Sivir ultimate hooked in there as well as Carry gets moved in. Kakao, good ultimate to cut them off, but still no kills.
Yeah, Vici got the objective. They missed the Glacial Prison completely. The Equalizer also was off. They needed to get out straight away. They were forced to flash in general, but they've already got the objective. They don't need to fight when that Glacial Prison finishes, and they're going to get punished by this rotation to mid by IG.
Yeah, that mid lane turret going down means that Vici, despite the fact they got the Dragon, probably lose the... probably get the better or the worst objective out of it just with their first Dragon to equalize from IG. So a good rotation there. Kid's going to move back into the top lane action, maybe try it again.
The moment the Glacial Prison misses, you need to back away, kite back, otherwise you will get punished. That was the result. The turret damage from IG is very high again with the auto attack reset on the Sivir. So they power down that turret, and in fact, they're rotating top with multiple members, Nunu and Sivir, just to be discussed. It's going to be a quick turret.
It's going to go down, in fact, here, as we've got 3 members from Vici, not quite enough to defend it. Shield from Marta might protect it for a little while longer, but Hook landing onto Carry might get to go in now as Riptide goes through as well. The Thai bouncing forward, the damage is coming in. Snowballs here from Kakao, but Carry still quite tanky there with the arm guard and the shields from Jana, and again, still no first blood at 18 minutes.
Yeah, IG could overextend for damage, knowing that the Equalizer and Glacial Prison were both not available. Vici have a very high skill cap comp here. They need to layer their CC perfectly or they drop off damage massively, especially in the early game before peeling for Lucian becomes a realistic option. So smart of IG to overextend for damage, but as you mentioned, just not quite enough to get that first blood.
And as we check in on those carries, Rookie has the Archangel staff now as well, so going to build in towards that Seraph, even though there's a spare amp tone, so possibly going in for Leandru's second there as well. Popping down to the bottom side, Vasily now, Infinity Edge plus Zeal, and Kid just behind him there with a Brawler's Cup and the IE of his own.
So the stacking comes through very quickly from this Archangel. Already close to 600 mana. 8 mana per stack means it should have it at the 21, 22 minute mark and just have so much innate tankiness to go with the high damage. And he's going Leandri's pastry time because he just wants to punish Sejuani in particular. It's only 1 health stack. If this was a double tank lineup, I'd love this pickup of the Leandri's quick from Rookie. But I guess he's just looking to the fact that Lulu's going to increase effective health pools and the Leandris will still do a lot of work. I
mean, it's nice and cheap, which is the good thing. And I love the note about Wild Growth as well. If he is going to go for Rylance, there's a bit of additional synergy in there as well. So Rookie, I mean, I'm never going to fault him for a build at least right now. He usually knows what's going on. A very savvy player, very strong. But Hatong, wave clearing up with the Lulu, building in towards his death cap, you have to think, with that blasting one. And well on the way to it now as well.
So the Vision's definitely become a lot more defensive from Vici Gaming. They've lost all the aggressive wars. They've lost all the rotations recently. They've been the ones that have been eating turrets. We haven't seen a lot of games where Vici fall behind in turrets, but to be honest, those seem to be the few games that Vici lose. They need to definitely try and get on top of this game with some better rotations, start getting those wards down, because at the moment, they're just kind of walking around mid, walking around turrets, and watching IG get objectives.
Grouping up now as well. You have to think Vici might be looking for a fight, but we're between dragons right now, so a potential lull in the action's coming, although IG grouping aggressively, even going to steal away the blue buff here. Kakao on the Nunu should be able to secure it and does take it away.
So they're starting to already get objectives now that they have the mid and top turret down. It makes sense that they're able to contest for the enemy blue buff. That's what getting those outer turrets down does. It opens up room for you to get aggressive vision without any real chance of being collapsed on So they take the blue buff. It's looking good for IG, and things just really stalling for Vici.
Yeah, now it's IG, the ones that have good vision down. Vici's vision's still fine, don't get me wrong, but kind of concentrated in towards the center of the map where IG been able to spread their wards out towards the left and right-hand sides, really deep in enemy jungle for both sides.
But look, Vici have a lot of vision in general. They've kind of had overwater maps for most of this season, but it's a lot of defensive vision coming through. Before, they were littering the enemy red, the enemy blue buff with wards. Now it's just defensive vision, so they're not looking for as many aggressive rotations, and they're just kind of watching IG play their game and not getting anything themselves.
So Tai almost caught out there, but does manage to escape. Fairly tanky on the Nara as a Banshee's Veil done, actually, so going to shake off that Sejuani ult. I like that pickup quite a bit. Good rotation there for Vici. Does net them a turret as a result. Vasily, when he gets free time on structures, will take them down very swiftly.
A lot of turret damage, as you mentioned, coming through from Lucian, despite his 500 range being a little bit scary to get an auto attack range. But when you go to Sejuani standing in the front, having all summoners available, probably much easier to do.
Yeah, plenty of peel here as the Tai still moving in, going to fight Carry as he pleases. Here, Carry building up towards his Zhonya's, you have to think. Although maybe a Leandru's coming through before he does want to go in that direction. But the Tai getting tankier. 8 is completed now as well for Kakao, and the transform plus Silly Andrews through for Rookie. He even powers up from the passive just then as well. All of a sudden, Rookie getting scarier and scarier.
And that's the scary thing, is the person that really benefits the most from this passive early game is Cassiopeia. Definitely has the damage advantage from the mid lane. Hasn't been pushing a 45 CS advantage against Hetong. Hetong on this Lulu hasn't been able to do a lot of work, just been pushing waves as we mentioned. It allowed the early vision to come through from Vici, but they didn't capitalize on that. And suddenly they're just left with a free farmed enemy Cassio.
Yeah, just been farming up a storm here as the Tai continues to pressure Carry back. The Tai, again, very strong in the mini now form, but Dragon back up in 22 seconds. That would break the Tai right now and give either team their second if they chose to get it. And once again, Vici are in there first to get the vision down.
But you worry that the poke damage from Rookie, let alone the all-in damage, is going to be very, very relevant now. Every poison tick going to be applying that Leandries as well. It's going to be a lot of damage coming through. Specifically Sejuani, who hasn't been able to build up an Aegis of her own just yet. It's just been focusing on the cost-effective cooldown reduction and health. It seems like it's a risk to opt into a dragon fight. And remember, Cassio with Leandris, Cassio already had massively high neutral damage to either Baron or Dragon. It's just even higher now.
Oh, Kitties might be caught up there, gets tag blood. Goodlance's Tornado comes through for Mata as well. Kitties, though, will use the ulti defensively as he puts it onto her tongue, but Rookie looking for a flank around the side as well. Might have to give it up. So Ty's actually pushing, and they don't want him to teleport. Doesn't have enough Narbar here. Vici will get the second dragon, but Zatai might be able to answer with a tier 2 turret.
But it was a very defensive teleport coming through from Rumble. Wasn't really in position to get any sort of flank, and as you mentioned, Zatai gets an inner turret over second dragon. To me, that's an easy choice. You take the inner turret every day of the week. Suddenly, they just stole away the enemy blue. It feels like blue, the blue buff will be on permanently on Rookie, and they should have real lockdown on both blue buffs on the map.
That's 2 different times that they've taken towers away for dragons. It was the mid outer turret first, the very important turret in the game, which of course Vici did manage to answer as well, with the 2 turrets being that one and the bottom side one as well. But a tier 2 turret's quite a good trade in there as well for IG. So it seems like maybe the third dragon's the one they want to contest, but at least for the first 2 for Vici, they're happy to just get some trades. And there we go, a 4th turret dropping now as well.
In general, if you kind of evaluate these comps, Vici definitely have the mid-game comp with the Rumble, with Rumble especially, who definitely peaks in the mid-game, despite the fact that he's basically been free farm in this game and should hit items at a very good clip. But when we're talking about AoE-centric teams, they almost always peak in the mid-game, because once QSS, once multiple Banshee's Veil, and of course we already see a Banshee's Veil on Zatai come through for IG, layering that CC becomes so much harder. Fights get a little bit more disorganized, and you feel like Vici's comp is going to start falling away. So the fact that Hetong is in such a big CS disadvantage of the bits, now it's going to 60 CS against the Cassio, because the damage is so there with IG. Look, they have a couple of extra dragons, but at some point you're going to have to start opting into fights against this IG team. And if you dive into that Petrifying Gaze, it's not going to be a fun time for Vici.
Yeah, Rookie is exceptionally strong at this point, still stacking up the passive, picks up the blue buff, has Distortion upgrade on the Sork Shoes now as well, level 14 on Cassiopeia as well. And Vici decide they want the outer turret. That's a bit of extra gold for them to take here. Might have caught out Zatai, but he's quite tanky at this stage. Almost got a Randuin's completed, but 4 members of Vici on the top side, that'll be a turret.
I feel like this is going to be a record for latest First Blood. No First Blood at 25 minutes this game 7 turrets down, though, so the map's starting to get open.
First blood is brewing, though. Hatonga gets knocked up, forced to use the wild growth on himself, but ultimate comes in. Vasily gets the kill onto Cassio, and Vici closed the trap wonderfully. Carry pops his Zonya's there. That's a 3rd kill already. Maybe going to be 4 clean kills. Here is the tie getting low there. Eventually will fall. Carry gets the kill. Nobody on Vici dead, and Kid, you have to run.
Desperately poor positioning coming through from IG. Kid started the fight, moved down. 2 members caught between 5 members of Vici. They died instantly in the middle. You need to fight around your AD carry and your mid laner, even with all these escape summoners. And Vici, after the first fight of the game, stone onto Baron.
Yep, they're going to do the EDG here. 25 minutes, win a team fight and take the Baron. And it's dead here. Kid can't defend it, just pushing in the waves, but Carry's even coming to join him now as well. And all of a sudden, a game with no kills in it at all. 4 kills for Vici and a Baron. And curiously enough, still a very slim gold lead.
Win the first team fight is the notable thing, and then win there. Just watch this engage. So you see the ultimate used onto Hatonga, you think, okay, Vici are caught, but look at this choke they're fighting in. Carry basically disregards the backline who are trying to get on top of him. 2 members die in the middle. It's already a 5v2 fight at this present stage, and Nah gets a triple Nah, but it doesn't matter at this point. So I don't understand why Kakao and Zatai, the 2 frontliners of the team, were completely split away from the carries, but the result was an easy team fight win for Vici.
Yeah, they almost out-rotated themselves there. We mentioned Rookie's big damage. He was primed in that fight to wipe the floor with Vici, but just got caught out of position due to IG honestly being in very poor spots after that tower went down.
But they out-rotated themselves in their own jungle. That's this crazy thing, is that they must have been thinking 3 moves ahead, but the current move was a winning one for Vici. Pick up the Baron as well. And in a game with no advantages, suddenly a 2,000 gold lead, and maybe even that dragon lead, will be a very relevant statistic.
Yeah, and it's how much Vici can get done with this Baron that might be the real important thing. They've got the buff for a couple more minutes, gonna start to get some aggressive vision down and really stick it to some of these inner turrets especially. Dragon will be back in a minute 45 as well, and Vici have to think they're on the rise now.
They have very high turret damage, as you can see. Carry has a lot of flexible options at this point. Because he has teleport up in a couple of seconds, he can just port back, and although Rumble has the problem where he often gets outscaled by enemy top laners and can't just stand up to them in a 1v1 in the late game. When you got Baron buff minions, it's a moot point. Rumble can happily stand toe-to-toe with Nah. So the one strategic advantage that IG spent this whole game building, the 2 outer turrets in top, is completely negated by the Baron buff. So Baron buff always important, but just with the texture of this game in 28 minutes, it's doing a lot of work for Vici.
Yeah, and Carry just went back, picked up a Void Staff there as well. Hatong, good to go with cooldown boots, but plus his 2 major items with the Athenes, plus the Rabadons in there as well. Even Mata with the trademark Mandra's coming through, getting a couple stacks as well. Vasily now with 3 items. I mean, his build's slightly cheaper than Kid's, but Kid's a full item behind right now.
And you can see that Kid's support. Kiddies understands that he is the real only initiation option, has managed to actually build up a Righteous Glory himself, gone for basically Moby Boots, Sightstone straight into a Righteous Glory. It's not quite Annie when it comes to engage, but Kiddies is taking it on himself to make things done. This is the worrying part of the game we spoke about, is that when IG want to engage, they have so few options, it's going to have to be Kiddies.
Yeah, and Carry still split pushing here, level 16 on the Rumble, immensely strong at this present stage. Dragon back up in 20 seconds. Carry does have his teleport. He's going to buy another Blasting Wand and look to maybe port down, but Vici at this stage can probably start the Dragon without him.
You're not rushing towards the Andrew. He's probably going to be going to a Death Cap with this Blasting Wand, or potentially the Abyssal Scepter if he wants to just pump up the damage for Sejuani and Lulu. Next Dragon coming through is the 3rd Dragon. Vici as a rotational team love to pick up that 3rd Dragon to even further aid the rotations, and then start putting those aggressive walls and have a couple on the enemy red side, but none on the blue side just yet.
And IG, who look to make some good trades for the first 2, don't really have anything that they can trade easily for now as well, and the Dragon's going to go down. That's Vici's 3rd, and IG, who again started a very close game here with Vici, have lost quite a lot of control. 3,000 gold the lead now.
With the vision they've had, they're trying to rush down and break the base. That's the last thing they want to do. The Baron buff has fallen off, though.
Yeah, Kakao gets knocked up. Vasily comes in. Good trades, actually. And you can see the Last Whisper doing good amounts of damage to the fairly tanky Nunu, although he doesn't have that much armor right now. And Zatai trying to push him in and out on the top side, but that's a long way to the inhibitor turret that he's pushing towards.
And it's only really Sivir that has instant wave clear. So Vici trying to take advantage of their ward control and get damage onto both inner turrets. Mata actually tanking up the turret for a couple of shots just to mean there was a bigger minion wave stack to open up time for Vasily to do turret damage. And not able to break the base with the Baron, but they got a lot of map control, you have to say. And look at this, we were talking about how it looked like that IG would be monopolizing the blue buff control. They actually just had Vici steal away the enemy blue, and all the neutral control from that one Baron, it goes to Vici.
Yeah, it didn't take much, but again, in any game that builds up a lot of momentum towards a big mid-game fight, it's usually the first fight that decides the game, and Vici have won the only fight that's been in the game so far. 4 kills in 30.5 minutes. What is this, Papa Smithy?
It's a quiet game pace for time. It's both teams playing very defensive, picking defensive-minded comp. Engage being at a premium. We only seen one Glacial Prison in this game. I believe there was a second one during that replay, but there was one notable Glacial Prison in the first 25 minutes, and then a second one that led to a one-team fight. So it's just been a really quiet game. Not really comps to promote action. There's no Destiny coming in. There's no really strong skirmish junglers, and the result has been a very rotational focused game.
And that has to favor Vici. You think IG look best when they're able to be proactive. Kakao and Rookie, we talk about them as the big threats for the team. That's not to write off Satai Kid or even Kitties, who are all great players in their own right, but when Kakao and Rookie rule the roost, the team tends to succeed, and that usually happens when they're both being incredibly aggressive.
So if you have any question marks about the Vici comp, it's damage in the late game, but they're now perilously close to the 4th and thus 5th dragon. So one of the win conditions for Vici here is achieving that 5th dragon and showing that everyone has those 12% multiplicative stats, and just the burn damage also coming through, the true damage. So IG needs to start contesting for dragons. The Baron comes up in a minute 20. I believe dragon's about 2.5 minutes behind it. They need to start opting into dragon fights, but we've already mentioned, unless they can get ward control in that area, hard to force a fight from Vici.
And Baron up in a minute now as well. Going to mean IG have another objective on the other side of the map to worry about as well. And they've got double side turns, but maybe not enough wards for this situation, because at the end of the day, Vici is just running you around this map, and IG is struggling to keep up so far.
I mean, IG is struggling just to keep their structures up that they already have, and you can see on the minimap, there's already pink ward supremacy. They've never been able to get around Dragon to potentially put down some pink wards of their own. They're being run ragged by Vici, and they've got the Janna on the Vici side. They're already a rotational team. It suits Vici, and Vici are playing their own game.
I mean, that's the reason why Mata does see a fair amount of Janna bans. He's got plenty of individual... Oh, Dandy stole away the red buff, I think, there as well. Actually, Equalizer might start a fight. Is a tie potentially caught away from the rest of his team. We'll get the Nara ulti, but Dandy with a wonderful ultimate on top of Kid and Rookie, following with the Wild Growth as Mata's going to chase them down. He resets there with the ulti as Kakao gets knocked back in. Kid gets the kill on Mata as they dive in, maybe a little too deep, but Dandy chasing out Rookie. Hatong will join in to try and get the kill. Eventually do get it as Polymorph goes in, and Vasily just picks up a triple kill.
And Rookie was basically assassinated by Dandy in the back line. The one solo Sejuani could deal with all of the late game damage coming through from Rookie. Rookie and Kid was out of that fight very early, just sitting in a brush, maybe only contributing the Boomerang Blade for fights. And Baron comes back, and they're already ready to pick it up.
So 2 team fights, and Vici win them both, losing only one person in the process here. Another Baron's going to come through, and again, it was a very slow 25 minutes in this game, but the last 10 have been very fast.
It was a very smart use of the Glacial Prison, held onto it, even though you saw the layering of the Equalizer. Equalizer was out. Forced to stand on it was Zatai. There was no other members that had to respect it, but the Glacial Prison actually used straight onto Cassiopeia, and then dashing over the red wall was what won them the fight. They got it onto 2 priority members, ensured there was no follow-up damage while they were freely DPSing down Zatai. And when the tanky Zatai dies for free, IG just had to go in separate ways, and they just fell apart.
And Rookie, as you look over, I saw a need to see Large Rod earlier. There's a Luden's Echo on his Cassiopeia.
I mean, it makes sense as a Cassiopeia item. You move a lot between spells. You get a lot of spell casts out. Anyone who has very short cooldowns, and of course, when you register that poison, the Twin Fang Dainto, I believe, 0.4, 0.3, 0.2 second cooldown, Luden's Echo proc should come out. It gives him a bit more wave clear as well for whenever Sivir's not grouped. So it's a decent item pick, and her AP ratios, while fine, don't demand a fast death cap. So Luden's Echo as a substitute, I don't mind it.
Yeah, it's almost a thing where it just increases some of the AoE damage. We called Cassiopeia fiercely single target before. Going to supplement a little bit of the AoE plan now as well.
But no rush towards Rylai's. Of course, Rylai's being completed would ensure that the Leandris was always proccing for the full duration rather than the half duration when you don't have any CC effects down. I would have preferred to see the Rise just because, I mean, Rookie, even with a some relative tankiness from the Seraph Embrace shield, is getting DPS down quite fast. Is a short-range mage, so he needs to fight in the front lines. Usually you need the likes of Abyssal Scepter and Rylai's to team fight well as a Cassiopeia, but going for the much more greedy, high AP build.
Yeah, really relying on positioning here at this stage of the game, and it's cost Rookie in the only 2 fights that have been in this game. He's been killed twice now very quickly in the early stages of those team fights. And Dragon back up in 5 seconds now. Vici are already lined up for it. And again, it's been a quiet game, but Vici have just overtaken 8,000 gold ahead now.
But the crazy thing to me is despite only having Sejuani as a frontline, it's actually been Lucian's been able to put out the consistent damage in these fights. Has 4 AD items already. 4th Dragon DPS down almost instantly by Vici. So much work has been done on Dandy as a solo frontline tank, and it's opened up Lucian to put out more damage than a Sivir. I did not think that would be the case when the Sivir has Gnar, Nunu, and Nautilus in the front line, but we've seen 2 fights. One where IG were hopelessly out-rotated, and the other one where the Glacial Prison just completely locked them down. Righteous Glory popped, but don't think they're going to find anything.
Yeah, they're trying to chase Dandy. Even the Sivir ultimate popped as well, but all for naught there, unfortunately, as Carry continuing to push on the top side of the map. Now has a Death Cap, plus a Blue Elixir ready to go as well. Hatong, with almost a Lich Bane completed, is pushing in aggressively towards the turret as well. Rookie will come in to clear out the Baroned up minions, but IG are running out of things to defend. Yeah,
Hatong doing his best Twisted Fate impression, of course, loves to rush the Lich Bane and start the split push. Just went for split push even without teleport. That's why you saw the On the Hunt and the Righteous Glory pop. They knew it would be a 5v4 at worst in that situation. But it's hard to lock down the Piggy. Despite the big model size, got the Arctic Assault, had Flash available, able to get away easily.
You can see Hatong kind of just zipping through the lanes here between bot and mid, using the Whimsy to speed himself up. Even has Home Guard boots just to get between the lanes once he does go back home to shop for that Lich Bane. QSS done on Vici now as well means he'll be dishing up maximum damage in any sort of team fight. So any hope of maybe catching him in a Cassiopeia ult or a Gnar ultimate, even that's too hard now.
I mean, he still has to respect the depth charge because QSS doesn't work against the knock-up effect. But every other CC, even the Gnar, it's still a bit of a... It's still a really bad situation if he eats the Gnar, because of course the base damage between the Boulder Toss and the Gnar is very high. But he's able to get out of any CC effects. Very hard to catch him. Petrifying Gaze, to be honest, has been a moot point this whole game. But QSS, especially in a snowball situation where he has an extra AD item and a QSS to match this, the Spectre's Cowl coming through from Kid. Man, he has so much more gold than Kid. Just looking down, we're talking 2,500, 3,000 gold more than Kid.
And I wish I'd noticed this earlier. Cacao has a Face of the Mountain. That's the gold generating item.
We've seen Nunus go pretty supportive with their builds. Mikhail's was a common pick, but this is something I was waiting to see. If you've got such high health values, you can opt into it, but I think we're going to see a fight.
Yeah, red buff there, going to get taken away. I think I think Cacao might have gotten it here, but no, Vici looks to have it. Cacao's forced to flush over the wall, and Vici going to force IG out.
But they do draw out the teleport from Carry, so maybe they'll be able to take advantage of that. Zatai still has his teleport available. Now that Baron is no longer riding, he should be able to 1v1 Carry in an off lane, but the push is going to continue.
And as again, still looking at that Nunu saying, yep, that's still definitely a Face of the Mountain.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, if you're stacking high health values, donating a 500, 600 shield, which in these days of Cinderhulk is a possibility, isn't a bad call. Mikhail's would have been another option. That's what we saw Beast doing quite frequently for Snake and for Crystal in particular. But Face of the Mountain, I don't mind it as a purchase. I mean, you might want to buy it straight up. You just buy a Kindle Gem, then finish the item. But it's something different.
Yeah, I think it must have been that way, because I think I would have seen a Relic Shield hanging out in Cacao's inventory, but it's cute. I even like that you can consume minutes to execute them, as Rookie solos out Hatong very comfortably.
And that was a flash into the Petrifying Gaze, possibly even cancelling the animation. And hey, he does a lot of damage, and you saw that register die during the duration of the 1.5 second stun.
And that's not a long stun, so Rookie not kidding around when it comes to the DPS here, maybe even moving into the Rylai's finally with a blasting one there in the inventory. Again, with that passive Cassiopeia build, absolute mountains of AP, but it's just one pick there for IG, but they'll try and make the most of it.
Yeah, what will they get out of it, though? Still a minute till Baron spawns. Dragon about 2 minutes behind that. There's no obvious advantage to pick up. There's no easy turrets, even. We're going to see the replay. Just watch what happens here. I mean, Hatong just doesn't expect it and then dies to triple Twin Fang and a couple of Luden's Echo procs. Notably, in about a second, there was 2 Luden's Echo procs to show you just how fast Cassiopeia puts out those spells.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage, actually, from Luden's Echo. So impressive to see Rookie come up with quite a creative build. Their blue buff going to get stolen away here as well. Vici Gaming, it was only one pick, but it might have cost them a little too much here. Baron up in 35. Dragon going to follow in a minute 40 from now. But Vici Amata going to push in the turret, and Zatai is the only one here to defend.
Yeah, Vici tried to disregard Gnar, but look at this Gnar. It actually has a Trinity Force. built up at this point. So while it's no Thornmail, they have to respect the damage from Na, so the rotation comes to nothing for Vici.
IG's comp looking stronger and stronger as we move in to the later stages of this game. 40 minutes have elapsed now, and we talked about it being a quiet game. Vici have played very methodically to get themselves to quite a strong lead, but they might have just spent a little too much time in this game. Even Kakao, 4,000 health almost on the Nunu.
We're a minute away from the 5th Dragon pressure coming through from Vici.
Dandy coming in, good ulti there, lands on Kakao. Kakao will get melted down there as Hatong gets the kill. Depth touch in the back onto Hatong, but too much damage there from Carry. Vasily following in as well, and they're just cleaning house here. Rookie gonna go down as well, so Tai will make it a 3rd kill, I believe, for Vasily. No, just Hatong with the double, but that's 5 for 1.
Yeah, 5 for 1, and Vasily was free hitting the whole fight. The equalizer from Carry was majestic, splitting the team up, and with these long death times, 50 seconds for Rookie, this should be the end of the game, even with just 1 minion.
Yeah, Hatong able to tank it up as well. Going to give some good shield. So is Mata over to Carry. Plenty of Magi stacks there as well. Mata using his flash, I think, signals that the game at this point is probably over. Vasily going to shred through the remaining structures, and Vici Gaming, with only 16 kills in a 40-minute game, take the first.
It was a bizarre game pastry time. We're talking about kill a minute. It was actually half a kill a minute, even lower than that. 41 minutes for 16 kills, but that suits Vici, a team that have been so on point with their rotations. Their rotational play, it struggled a bit in the last week of the LPL, but obviously don't read into that too much, because you step into playoffs and suddenly, the first 10 minutes, a little bit shaky. The next 30, all in the Vici Gaming's advantage.
Yeah, and execution heavy is what we call this team comp. You saw the last few team fights, or the only team fights really in the game, and Vici really delivered when it came to executing properly. Carry's Rumble especially, we talked about how he hadn't seen it in a couple of weeks, but it might be hitting the ban list once again.
And I mean, you saw Rookie on your screen. He looked a bit puzzled as to what happened that game. It felt like a lot of that game was in rotations rather than kills, and IG, they just had no answer to the game plan from Vici.
Well, we'll see if IG can play a little bit more at their pace in the next one, but as we go to a break, when we return, we'll have Game 2 between Invictus Gaming and Vici Gaming.